Hello, and welcome again to Talking Baseball with Leon Lee. Today is November 23rd, 2020, and we're here again with myself, Steve, and Leon Lee, and Ryan. We're going to talk a little more baseball, and we haven't done that for quite a while, right, Leon?
We haven't, and it's really good to get back on. Thank God for Zoom, right? We do an advertisement for Zoom,
That's right.
and with all the lockdown and the COVID, it makes sense. We're trying to hopefully people would listen to the science and wear their mask, and I know there's a lot of young baseball players out there that want to have long careers, so it's good for them to put on their mask, and if they can't play as much right now as they'd like, to stay healthy and stay strong and be ready to play in 2021.
That's right. So I think, Leon, you wanted to talk about some of the impacts of course, the pandemic's had on not only Major League Baseball that we saw, but also some of the draft and youth baseball. And there's quite a lot to talk about. So where did you want to start with that today?
Well, I'll tell you, me being an old school baseball player, and thankfully we got a fairly young gentleman on, Ryan Garrett, that I've worked with in the past. Our family's intertwined with baseball, and when Garrett was a young kid, and we did a lot of work in the terminologies, and he can bring some of those up now. But I think it's important that, now that baseball's kind of going through to me, a major transition. This year, obviously, it was a shortened season, a 60-game season. They were implementing different things, like putting runners on second base and extra innings. I was just kind of shocked and amazed at where Major League Baseball had kind of gotten into some of the some of these things that I've seen in amateur ball, but it's actually gotten to the major league level. And it could be temporary, but to me, there's just so much to discuss in the transition of the game, and seeing some of the changes in personnel and even actually with all the analytical changes that are being made at the major league level. I like to have discussions and go back and see, let's talk about what the game was all about. How did it get started? How did great players get great? How's all these guys in the Hall of Fame and they never even heard about analytics before? And how does analytics really make that big of a difference when it comes to the fact that historically players still have to step across those lines and go out there and play the game? They got to hit it, they got to catch it, they got to throw it, and they got to run hard. And it's never really changed. So this is something that we could talk about, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
And I know, and Ryan, kind of as a young man now, as a younger fan, what did you think about some of those changes that you saw on TV this year, like runners starting at second and extra innings?
I mean, I feel like, baseball's already a really technical game, and I feel like they're trying to make it too technical even more. And they're making all these new rules and everything to speed up the game. And I understand it was a shortened season, but, they're thinking about implementing it and, to a full season. And to me, that's just a little disappointing because I like the old school style of, ball, and I don't want to see it change. I don't need to, see a runner on second when, it's extra innings just to speed the game up. How about, steal a base? You don't see that anymore, and,
That's right.
bunting was totally out of the picture this year,
Exactly. And then when you get into a season, a playoff season or a World Series, when the home runs aren't happening, you need a situation where a guy can bunt. And he hasn't ever bunted. He hasn't bunted the whole year.
Yeah.
And then you expect him to get a bunt down. And, just to me, it's something everybody should know how to do.
Yeah. Yeah. I think,
I see kids, I'm sorry, Steve, but you see kids that don't even know how to slide. And I don't ever remember not knowing how to slide. That was the funnest part of the game, is getting dirty,
Exactly.
right?
Well, another thing for me is, so basically, they're just doing so many, they're really emphasizing, to put the shift on, if it's a lefty or righty pull hitter or whatever you want to call them. But, and I feel like it's teaching kids now. It's like, okay, well, the shift is normal, but it's like, well, you should bunt it to the left side or bunt it to the right side if there's no one coming third or first. And, you should be practicing those things as opposed to, the analytics. Okay, so let's go ahead and do the shift, but, I'm not going to just bunt it over there when I can easily just get on base doing it that way.
Yeah, and that I think that goes into the analytics we were talking about, right, Leon? With when you do those shifts, and then all of a sudden defensive positioning, players are out of position, and normal cutoff assignments are different, double play assignments are different, and that really has an impact on, how is that supposed to be taught at the youth level?
Well, see, that's the good point right there. And I was going to say, when you have kids starting in Little League, and, it's like when we do camps or you start, the first thing the coach will ask is, oh, what position do you play? And the game historically has always been separated from the catchers, pitchers, first baseman, second baseman, shortstop, third baseman, left field, center field, outfield. And really, outfielders, you can kind of look at, say, okay, kids are more apt to be better in one position or another because it's a little different playing right field and left field. But it's always been separated by position. And it's really important as we teach is the player that plays that particular position learn everything they need to know about position. But now you're playing based on information going off a hitter, and you're putting these big shifts on, and you lose the whole idea of how to fundamentally learn how to play a specific position. And historically, the game that's how the dimensions of the field are set up, from the right field line to the left field line, and you separate the players and positions based on the fact that the balls are going to be flying all over the place, and you got somebody in the vicinity, right?
Right.
And so the fun of the game to me is to teach kids how to play specific positions. And some players, we have utility players that learn how to play a variety of positions. So to me, the game right now is getting completely distorted based on the analytics doing shifts. They have hitting techniques where you have launch angles, and you see the strikeout numbers going way up. Well, I know Steve and I know Ryan, as we are learning, as we enjoy playing the game, probably the least fun of the game is striking out. And today's game, the strikeout is okay. And I like to always relay things back to the youth, is that we're teaching you how not to strike out, not how to strike out. And
right,
not we always say, don't hit home runs, hit line drives, hit the ball on the barrel, hit the ball hard. But
or in
now,
my case, back in the day,
home run.
Yeah. Like in my case, back in the day, you always called it WTP, warning track power. It still got the job done.
That's right. Yeah. You hit the ball in the air, you make way more outs.
Yeah. And Ryan, when you were coming up being coached by us and Leon in particular, how did you view striking out when getting instruction from Leon?
I mean, obviously I always hated striking out, but you learn what you did, and it's like, and being afraid of certain pitches or not being afraid of them, and just being more confident as opposed to just accepting the fact, oh, I struck out, whatever, but I wanted to learn from it. I didn't want to just accept the fact that, I'll strike out and I'll come up next time. I want to adjust and make, learn from my mistakes.
Yeah. So that emphasizes Leon. I mean, his comment right there emphasizes that it seems like with analytics, a strikeout is just like any other out. And that's the way the players look at it now, as opposed to what Ryan just explained. It's more than just an out. It's more of a complete failure of,
I feel like you're not learning,
Yeah, you're not learning. Yeah.
Exactly. And another thing is historically, we always say, we tell pitchers to pitch to contact. We tell hitters to put the ball in play, because the action happens in baseball when the ball's in play. But now they contradict themselves when they say you want to speed a game up, and you got way more strikeouts, where strikeouts take way more time. Instead of teaching hitters that strikeouts are okay, you have to make it where strikeouts aren't really okay. Now, if you get a Kerry Wood or Roger Clemens, every now and then you see the big 19, 20 strikeout game, those are to be applauded. They had a great pitching day that day. They were unhittable. But I guarantee the guys in the dugout, they weren't really happy that they struck out 20 times, and they shouldn't be. So you can't make it okay to have strikeouts and have, you got to. You remember the day, Steve, when Dave Kingman, I think, hit 38 home runs that year and he had 60 RBIs.
Yeah.
And that's not acceptable. 200 and something strikeouts. So, I mean, who would you rather have at the plate? I'd rather have a guy at the plate that's got 40 doubles, 6 triples, on base percentage, 4 on base percentage, and hitting 320 and striking out maybe, Tony Gwynnish type stuff where you got a real dangerous guy up there because he's going to put the ball in play. Those are the type of hitters I like to have on my team.
Right. And I think you brought up the point that we were talking about the other night casually was action. Obviously, it does get a little boring when there's just strikeouts and walks, but if their ball's put in play, that's a lot more exciting to watch.
Well, let me ask you this, you guys, because I don't think we discussed this last time we talked. About that 3-batter minimum for the pitchers coming into the ball game now. I feel like it's. Go ahead, Leon.
No, finish up your question.
Yeah, it takes away. I feel like I don't know. It's hard to say. It takes away a lot of the situation of the game and what you're going to do. And, for the managers and the players, and also bunting too, and the double switch and stuff like that. I don't know if Major League Baseball necessarily wanted to do that to speed up the game, but I personally am not really a big fan of it because, it's part of the game. It's like kind of like chess, all right, you're going to do this, I'm going to do this, and we'll keep it going, and whoever wins, but it's like I'm not going to be locked down.
Well, you can't make rules based on every team's makeup is a little different. Every manager manages a little different, and everybody's personnel is a little different. So if you got a lefty who's a crafty guy, he's a 1-point guy. I like carrying that one guy who I know, like we said earlier, I got Barry Bonds coming up, and I got a lefty I can go to in a situation from the 7th inning on that I got him in the bullpen just specifically to throw to Barry, based on the fact that if my starter's not as overpowering and he gets me to the 7th, any starter that gets me to the 7th inning, he's had a great day. If he goes complete game, fine. There's no more complete games anymore. You'll never see a complete game anymore because starters are only expected to go 5. You got your starters, you got your middle guys, you got your setup guy, you got your closer, and they're all making $5 million a year. But for the most part, what they're telling me now is if I bring my crafty lefty in to pitch to Barry Bonds and he succeeds in getting him out, he's still got to pitch to 2 more hitters. And that's not what I have him for.
Exactly.
Now you're putting my strategy at risk because now I can't bring that guy in. And I know there's a big, powerful right-hander coming up next, and I've only got that lefty. So you're messing with a manager's strategy saying, I got to leave him in for 3 hitters. That's for the sake of whether it's speeding up a game, you're changing rules that apply to you end up finishing second place a half a game behind the leader, and you go back and remember those 5 games that you might have lost by 1 run. It makes a huge difference, So I just say myself is you want to speed a game up, throw more strikes, and have hitters put the ball in play.
Right. Now
it goes faster that way. Bob Gibson never pitched a 3-hour game.
Yeah. But at what, taking it back to a youth question, at what levels do you believe in teaching specialties for like relief pitchers and things of that nature to where it's tying into the strategy of the game? At what age group or level do you see that getting introduced?
I really don't see teaching relief pitchers at the youth level ever. To be honest, I would never try to make a relief pitcher out of a young player. To me, a young player, if he's a pitcher, then he's a starting pitcher no matter what. He's not really converted to a relief pitcher unless he gets at the pro level or even at the college level. Sometimes at college level, they start discerning who's my starting staff and who's going to be my relievers, and they leave it at that. Mm-hmm. At the little league and the high school level, you should teach every pitcher a starter's mentality. But also the starter's mentality is simply this: teach them how to throw a fastball on two sides of the plate and have the confidence to throw that fastball at all times, anytime, every time. The next pitch they should learn is a changeup. A changeup doesn't put any stress on your arm. But see, now you see in the Little League World Series at Williamsport, in order to win ball games, you see little leaguers teaching kids how to throw the big curveballs. And now you see more kids with arm trouble. Obviously now with technology, Tommy John surgery is not as critical as it used to be, obviously, but still, you don't want to have a kid have to have arm surgery if you can help it. So until he gets to at least 15 years old, he should really never be practicing how to throw a lot of major curveballs. Or sliders. It should be learn how to command a fastball. If a pitcher can't command a fastball, he'll never win anywhere. So, from a starter to a reliever, the starter mentality, they can always adapt to say if they get put on a college roster or major league or minor league roster or major league roster, they can always learn how to be a reliever, but they'll never relearn how to throw a strike on the inside or outer half of the plate. The whole idea of me being a professional hitter, the pitcher that can move my eyes and move my feet will win ball games as long as they keep a fast tempo.
Mm-hmm.
If they keep working, I don't have time to think. They work fast, not super fast. I mean, you got to stay under control. But if a pitcher controls the tempo and he can move my eyes and move my feet, he'll win ball games, period.
Yeah. And you see, they always harken back to the old story of the 65 series with Sandy Koufax in Game 7 when he couldn't throw his curveball and he just threw the fastball for the last 7 or 8 innings.
Yeah. It's a good story. So, excuse me, Rhino. When I was in AAA, remember Bob Feller?
Yeah.
Bob Feller was known for his fastball. So we're in AAA and I'm a coach, and one of our starting pitchers, Bob Feller's in town for an appearance and stuff. And he's in the clubhouse in the locker room with us. And this pitcher says, "Hey, Mr. Feller, could you show me how you used to throw your curveball?" And Bob Feller had this little lisp, and he would go, "Well, let me tell you, I was pitching one time against the Yankees, and I got up there and the catcher gave me the curveball sign and I shook him off. And I said, whoosh, and I threw a 97-mile-an-hour fastball, strike one. And I looked in there and I got the sign and the guy gave me a curveball and I shook him off. And I came back and shoosh, 97-mile-an-hour fastball, strike two." And he goes, "They look in there and the catcher gave me another curveball sign. Shoosh, I threw another fastball. I shook him off and threw fastball, strike three." He says, does that answer your question, young man?" And what he was trying to tell, he says, a curveball is only a purpose pitch. Your fastball is what you make a living on.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're afraid to throw your fastball, you'll never be able to win a ball game. And I don't care who the hitter is. You can't give the hitter so much credit that think that he's going to hit every fastball you throw. It won't happen.
Mm-hmm.
And every young player should learn that. When you're teaching kids how to pitch, teach them how to throw strikes. Don't teach them how to trick hitters. And that's why I see a lot of coaches with young players now trick them instead of teaching a pitcher to go after them.
Right.
Go after them, challenge them.
Right. And another impact, these are good discussions on all the rule changes and stuff. And another potential impact here was on draft.
Oh, yeah.
And how is that impacting the youth aspect of the game with the limited number of draft picks?
Well, Major League Baseball's from a economical standpoint is they feel they're spending a lot of extra money by having these player development contracts with 6 minor league teams each, sometimes 7. They're carrying rookie league teams, they have a low A team, the high A team, the double A team, triple A team, and then major leagues. So they feel that if they cut the draft, that they cut out a lot of the major minor league clubs this last year. And on COVID year, you didn't really see the impact of it, but you will next year. Every team is going to have less minor league teams. It's going to be less opportunities for the lower rounds. They're not going to be drafting 40 rounds anymore. They're going to be drafting anywhere from 15 to 20 rounds. And so they think they're going to get better ball players and get more players that are more prepared to play at the big league level by having less minor league ball clubs. And so there's going to open up a lot of more independent level teams. And I can guarantee you that a lot of players are going to come out of those lower level leagues because some players develop at a slower pace and they'll come out. But there's Major League Baseball, I think, is making a mistake because you're stepping on kids' dreams. I don't care if they play pro ball at A ball. They could, the rest of their life, they could say they were a pro player, you know?
That's right.
And I think it's not as big a cost as they think. They're more apt. They're thinking more about making money than they are about giving money out to help develop the self. It's not about baseball, really. It's really about building that self-esteem and letting kids live their dreams of being a pro baseball player.
You know, you could also say that's another example of trying to speed up the game. They're trying to speed up the draft.
Yeah.
You know, and it's I don't know, it's just being a huge baseball fan, you know, it's not about speeding it up for me, you know.
Well, if you think about it, Steve, when I was doing radio, Steve and Nicole would come out to the AAA game and I'd see them sitting down there enjoying the game. And I'd look down, sometime we'd wave at each other. And I mean, if it was a 2-hour game, that'd be an hour less than we'd have a chance to see each other there. And hour less of a baseball that they came out to see.
Exactly.
So to me, let the game play out. It's, you know, let the game play out. Sometimes you're going to have a 2.5 or 2-hour game. Sometimes you're going to have a 3-hour and 15-minute game. But, you know, when I played in Japan, it was like the fans, the longer the game was, the more they liked it because they were trying to keep up with the strategy. What are they thinking? They're having a meeting over there. What are they saying? You know, people get into the game. But here, sometimes you go to a game that's more of a social night. Because Major League Baseball uses 1 million promotions to get people to come out to see the promotion and not the game. Mm-hmm. So when the fireworks are over, they're ready to go home. So, you know, it's almost like they're not really paying attention to the game. So after the 6th or 7th inning, they're ready to leave. Well, to me, it's not because the game is too long. To me, they're not promoting the game. They're promoting something else in order to make money. Well, promote the players. If I got Ryan Garrett out on the field, I'm going to have that loudspeaker guy saying your name 25 times a night.
Yeah.
The more he says your name, the more the fans want to see you. But they're up there talking about what's happening with Coca-Cola, you know, and have a Coke, you know, cut off we got to make our money. So have a commercial so we could do our Coke commercials and our Nike commercials. To me, use the players for commercials. Promote your players, promote the game, talk about what's happening, this strategic idea or get the fans involved. What would you do in this situation? Let the fans become coaches. So they promote the game more for money than they do promoting the game. And now they worry about how long it takes because people get bored. Well, they get bored because they're not paying attention to the game. That's just my feeling. And I think that really, you go to Dodger Stadium, you guys, lovely Dodgers. I know you guys love the Dodgers.
Of course.
But the fans show up in the 3rd inning and they leave in the 7th. I mean, it's sad. You go to Dodger Stadium, you guys have been down there. It's like it's a social gathering. People get there for social and in the 7th inning they leave.
Yeah.
You know, and everybody, oh, what's the score? So if your diehard fans are about 20,000 people and your passive fans are about the other 30,000,
right?
And those 30, you know, those by the 7th inning, people are leaving. And so now they're thinking, oh, the game's taking too long. What do? We got to make the game more exciting. And to me, that's where they make their biggest mistake.
Yep. And it's again back to that pace of play. I mean, do they have those some of those pace of play implementations in Japan? Have you heard?
No, no. I haven't been there in a little while, but I stay in touch. And the Japanese games they just play the game because the fans control the game and the fans really enjoy it. The longer it takes, the only problem they have there is 11 o'clock, the train stop running, and a lot of people come to the games on trains. So they do show respect that if a game goes too long, over 3.5, 4 hours, they do have a limit at times where they'll cut a game off. They don't now as much as they did in the past, but they show a courtesy because they know a lot of people took the train to get to the game and the trains will stop running at 11. But the train stations are real close to the ballpark. So it's amazing how they have it set up like that. But if a game goes, they start the games earlier too there. They start the games at 6:05 and the night game. So if it goes extra innings and it's getting to a point, they'll might call it, and then they won't replay it, but that's how you'll see in Japan sometimes you'll see a game ended in a tie.
Right.
And that's the only difference, is that they show the respect for the fans to say, but the actual 9-inning part of the game, they're not really worried so much about length, even though they used to start them later and they had a little time limit so the fans can get to the game, but they've adjusted that now.
Yeah. So another thing that I think you wanted to briefly discuss was maybe some of the recent GM hirings.
They made news when they hired Kim Ng as the new GM, general manager for the Florida Marlins, which I thought was a really overdue hiring, because to me, it's not about man or woman, and she's qualified. The problem I have in some areas is I noticed they've hired a couple of young female batting coaches in the minor leagues, kind of to break that barrier down. Now, I'm not against anything when it comes to women hiring in sports or whatever, but to me, the qualifications, when you have so many ex-professional baseball players that are out of the game that paid their dues, and then you're hiring, it just shows you the difference in the game now. They're hiring people, whether it's men or girl, coming out of college with degrees in kinesiology that they're saying qualifies them to be batting coaches in the minor leagues. So what they're saying is, we're going to bring these kids in here to teach minor league players the analytics of hitting, rather than really getting to know that kid's name, where he's from, who he is, how well his eyesight is, what's his mannerisms, what's his level of athleticism, and then be able to take all that and build a relationship and say, here's your natural swing, let's work with it. Rather than coming in here with these analytical kids that coming out of college and saying, here's the blueprint. We want you to hit by this blueprint.
Well, and see, that's a very good point, Leon, because I remember when I was, going to Little League and everything, I was around between 9 and 12. Unfortunately, a lot of the coaches that I had, they always focused on all of us doing the same thing, but every hitter's different.
Exactly.
We can't all do the same swing. We can't all do the same thing. You can't be analytical. You got to go ahead and learn the player, and then you can coach the player. And then, the player is going to go ahead and excel. You can't teach them a bad habit and expect them to do well.
That's right. And you see that even at the JC level, they're teaching kids all the same exact thing, same routine, same habit, same, knee movement, whatever, do this. And they're out there in a circle and everybody's hitting the exact same way in practice. Now you get in the game and you get in the batter's box. Everybody has different thoughts when they step in that batter's box. It's more emotional than it is physical. So what have you taught that kid how to deal with his emotions, along with the actions or your first step, or how you're going to react to a ball coming out of that pitcher's hand, in a game situation. Now you don't have a batting cage or an L screen. You got fans in the stand, you got an umpire, and it's real. So you got to take every individual. How do they handle things emotionally? Most coaches don't know how to do that nowadays if they don't have that experience, because if they haven't been in that batter's box and dealt with it, then they can't teach a person how to do it mechanically, because once you get in the game, this is your livelihood. You know, you're a pro. So when young kids are out there, I always say a chain is only as strong as its weakest link, right?
Mm-hmm.
So every player is a different link in the chain. You got to teach each one of those kids individually. And then when it comes game time, you link them together like a chain and say, okay, now let's go out here as a group and play the game. But every individual has their own individual responsibility. And that's how you have to teach every hitter different. I can't, because you're a left-hand hitter, Rhino, I can't teach you the same way I teach the guy standing right next to you.
Mm-hmm.
What I teach you, there's some things we talk about that are universal. Obviously, everybody listens and they go, oh, okay, I understand that. I understand that. I see that. I see that. But they also got to understand what applies to me and what doesn't apply to me. Because you got to remember, when you leave me, or when these kids leave their coaching in Little League, they go to another coach. And they leave that coach and they go to another coach. So somewhere along the line, they have to learn a little bit about who they are themselves. So me, I have to teach you how to teach yourself. That's the biggest favor I can do for you, right?
Yeah, no, I remember that quote very well, and I agree with
Yeah.
you 100%, Leon. That's
Yeah, but what do you see now, Rhino and Steve? You see kids standing there go, yes, coach, yes, coach, yes, coach.
Yeah,
The
there's
coach
a lot of robots, a lot of robots being built.
But you got robots, but you don't have ball players.
Right.
And what you want to create is a ball player, because that's what the kid wants to be. The kid really wants to be a ball player. How can I make you a ball player? The only thing I can give you is teach you how to have the confidence to become one. Because the information is out there. The more you grow, you're going to get the information. You just have to have the confidence to go out there and keep playing. You're going to. And I remember Ted Simmons.
Yeah, switch hitter catcher.
I knew you knew him, Steve. You know.
He just entered the Hall of Fame, in fact.
That's right. And Simmons was a really good friend of my brother, and I knew him super well. But we were sitting at a game one time in Arizona in spring training, and he goes, Leon, what do you think of this? He said, I think, and I've actually said it out in meetings, that sometimes we don't even need coaches in the minor leagues. If you put all the players, the good players on the field, and let them get 1,500 at bats, they'll be ready to play hit in the big leagues without any coaching. And I agree with him. If you get on the field and play every day for 3 years straight in the minor league, you're going to get better. Period. Now, it's always good to have, sometime a coach there, you advise them. But from a theory standpoint, I understood what he was saying. You can hurt a kid more by over-coaching him and just letting him go out there and play. And when I give hitting lessons, that's why I like to throw a lot, because throw, hit, you get better, even if I keep my mouth shut. But if I add a few things here and there, then it gets a little better.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right.
Well,
So that quote Ryan was referring to, your famous quote is, be your own best coach.
Yep. That's my theory. Learn how to be your own best coach. Butter your own bread, right?
Well, guys, we're probably coming up against already our time that we were allotted. So I know it goes so fast all the time. But
but I think we're going to start some program. We're going to talk about it in future events too, and some of the programs we're going to be doing next year to develop kids. And I'm a firm believer that we need to kind of change a little bit. And the kids that go up there like a Mike Trout, that develop their own style, that have their own way of playing, they become superstars. The players that are robots only go so far, because they get 20 years old and realize, heck, this is not me.
Yeah.
They get this epiphany sometimes, go, God, I feel better if I'm just hitting the way I like to hit. And by then, sometimes it's too late. Those kids need to be learning that at 10, 11, 12 years old.
That's right. Ryan, any other closing comments you want to make, or maybe something you want to talk about next time?
Let's see here. Obviously, I'm always one for talking about the Dodgers, but that's just bias. But I'm just looking forward to the next time you, me, and Leon do this again. I think it'll be fun, and it's exciting, and I'm enjoyed that I was able to do this with you guys tonight. So,
all right, Leon, anything you got to add, or anything you want to talk about for next time?
Well, I would say this. We have a lot. Baseball is a great conversation. I think we'll have, we have a lot of things to talk about. But one thing that I really want to stress, mainly for young kids, I want to turn it toward young kids to have them understand who they are as an individual, what their limitations are, the things that they're strong at. And always this, people say, work on your weaknesses. And the one thing I want to talk about in the future with kids is always recognize your strengths, work on your strengths, make your strengths as strong as possible, because we'll always have weaknesses, in different areas, but always work on your strength. The things that you do the best, be the best at it, and you'll go a long way with that.
100%. Yeah. No, I totally agree with that, Leon.
Yeah.
All aspects of life, you can do that.
Exactly.
That's right. Baseball is life lessons, right?
It is life, and that's where you got to look at it.
Well, that's a good way to end it there, Leon. And
Yeah.
I'll just remind everybody to find us at our podcast website at talkingbaseballwithleonlee.podbean.com. And you can also find us via Google Podcast just by searching for Talking Baseball with Leon Lee. And now you can also find us on Spotify for, again, searching for Talking Baseball with Leon Lee. And if you want to email us, you can email us at talkingbaseballwithleonlee@gmail.com. And we'll talk to you all again soon.